Well, to give you a little bit of the background that I got while I was on City Council on the bench issue, first, they like to schedule meetings. I'm a single parent going through kind of a messy divorce and had to go back to work. So I've been struggling the last 2 years on City Council, and they would purposely do meetings when they knew I couldn't attend. There would be emergency meetings called knowing I would be out of town or knowing that my kids had to be picked up from school or whatever. And it was always at a time I said that I wasn't available, which wasn't very often, but I always found that interesting. And since I was back at work, I was scheduled for a daytime meeting for city updates, and it was a meeting I could never make. So I was finally invited to one when this bench issue was going on in the afternoon when I was available, and I was in there with 2 other council members and one of our, and I'll put his name out there because I know he's proud that he was at that meeting and proud to be a supporter, Prescott College, who is a member-elect. He will be seated on Tuesday. And Chris and I stood up for the bench, and I thought everyone knew about the bench. To me, it was like, it's a bench, it's a mural, it's a project, it's a mosaic, what's the big deal? And I found out that 3 or 4 of our council members had received calls and complaints from a select group. These same council members go have a little coffee club every morning and decides the city fate. It is very interesting what I hear from the waitresses that serve them. And this has been a discussion apparently. The new city manager, who he's not a bad guy, he's not a city manager. He is an engineer, should not be in charge of the city, and he knows I feel that way, so I'm not saying anything that he hasn't heard me say. He was running this little meeting, and he said, well, here's the drawing, and he holds up a piece of paper of what Kristen had originally submitted. And on that piece of paper is the tree with a bench with tiles on it. But they're not cutting mosaics, it's more kind of a grid pattern. But it says on there that this is going to be a community project and community art pieces will be part of this. And I said, well, it explains this. I said, who in the world would have thought that it's going to end up looking like this? It's not what it says. And he said that this is what it is. And I said, wait a minute, Craig, for 2 months, this has been going on, and you're telling me that nobody has monitored this, and you're just now discovering that this doesn't look like the picture? And he goes, well, no, we've got people looking at it. We've got staff out there every week. And I said, then why are you letting this go this far, and there's no public art policy, there's no regulation on this? If it's been okay until now, why is there a problem? And I couldn't get anyone to admit what I, like I said, heard elsewhere about these calls to the certain council members. And it was the same members as like with the mural on Miller Valley School. So it was very upsetting to me, and I said, you know what, this can be a PR nightmare, don't go there. I said, it's a bench and park, let it be. Just let this go. And I said, if anything, if there are some religious tiles, take those off. Meanwhile, let's create the public art policy we need. And he said, well, we'll never come up with a policy that's going to cover everything. I said, but you got to start somewhere, Craig. And I said, if we're going to continue having this battle every time there's something that might be viewed by the public, we do need to have a policy in place. And it's, every single time anyone wants to do anything in this town, there's somebody who doesn't like it. And you can have 100 people who do like it and 2 people who don't, but those 2 people are best friends with city council members. So they're the ones that are hurt. And that's not a community, that's a dictatorship, and I don't like that. And that was one of my battles up there, and it was many times, it was a 6-1 vote. I didn't want to insult that city manager on not voting for him, so I just didn't go to that meeting because I was trying to be nice, and it didn't work. So I found out by the director at Kestrel High School. He called me on Tuesday and said, the bench is gone. So what are you talking about? He said, the bench is gone. It's in the Courier. And that's been my #1 complaint in 4 years of serving on that council is don't let me find out on the street or in the newspaper. You need to let me know when there's something that's affecting the city, and you need to give me a call. I'm reachable. You can call me, text me, email me. I'm available. And they just removed it. And there is this story about who's the parks director, who wasn't the parks director. Everything is lies. The bench was safe. Even Chris Cook, said if there's some edges that are uneven, well, we'll just put a plastic like top on it. We'll make it work so that bench can stay. There were solutions that were completely ignored. I mean, people were volunteering products and time and ideas, completely ignored because a couple people didn't like the bench. They didn't even see the benches, just what they were told by their friends. And that's just wrong. And so since I'm never quoted in the paper, and it seems like I don't even exist on the council most of the time. I was done. And this is the first thing that happened publicly that I could make a statement on. Other things they purposely would put in an executive session, so I can't to this day ever talk about them because there are executive session laws, and I cannot discuss things that were put on in those meetings. And they do affect this community, and it's wrong. It's wrong that they do this and then tie our hands of those of us who want to correct these wrongs. But when that bench happened, and it was done on public property, and everyone knew about it, I felt resigning was the one way I could make a statement that says, I'm done, and this is wrong. And it did, and I did get people, I have had maybe 2 people that said that I was a quitter, but they have no idea about the whole story and everything else. So that's why I did what I did, and the city's been lying. There's no way around it. The city has been lying about this.